Hello, my name is Mark Goodacre, and I'm sitting in the Fellows Garden at Exeter College, where I was a student for some years. It's here that I became really interested in the synoptic problem. And one of the key aspects of the synoptic problem is this amazing phenomenon called the double tradition. Now, the lovely thing about the synoptic problem is that so much of the terminology is really self-explanatory. Triple tradition means stuff that's in all three synoptic gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. Double tradition means stuff that's just in two. But there's a wrinkle here. Double tradition is generally used specifically to refer to the stuff that is in Matthew and Luke, but that's not in Mark. And there are other double traditions in the sense that there's quite a bit of stuff that's in Matthew and Mark that's not in Luke. There's a bit of stuff that's in Luke and Mark that's not in Matthew. But for the purposes of trying to find a good solution to the synoptic problem, this particular set of double tradition, the Matthew, Luke, not Mark bit, is significant. The reason it's significant is that if you've got a whole bunch of material that's really, really close across two gospels, then either one knows the other, Matthew knows Luke, or Luke knows Matthew, or both know something else, some other document we haven't got. And it's that most people have latched onto in the study of the double tradition, that perhaps Matthew and Luke had a hypothetical document, people call it Q for convenience, that they copied out of. But it's important to get a sense of what's actually in the double tradition. It is largely sayings material. So you've got things like the Sermon on the Mount or the Sermon on the Plain, depending whether you're looking at Matthew or Luke, and that has Beatitudes in it, the story of the two builders. You've got material like the Lord's Prayer in the double tradition. You have parables in there, like the parable of the lost sheep. You have a whole bunch of interesting aphorisms, Jesus saying wise things, discourses about nature, discourses about the eschaton, discourses about how to live your life. It isn't all saying so. There are one or two narratives. There appears to be a baptism of Jesus, a temptation of Jesus, like you've got in Mark's gospel. There's the story of the centurion who had a boy that he needed healing. That's in Matthew 8 and Luke 7. That's a good chunk of narrative there. And there's also a story about messengers coming from John the Baptist. And although that has lots of saying material in it, it has a very strong, very marked narrative context. So it's not true to say that this is a sayings source or a sayings gospel, because there's so much narrative in it with real narrative drive at the beginning. But it is true to say that it is dominated by sayings material. What's the solution to the question of the double tradition? That's a story for another day.